Hi, my name is Jason with MDI.
And I'm Keith Collins with MDI.
And today we are going to be giving you a review of a new gimbal from Moza. It's called the Moza AirCross. Now they've been very kind to send us a review unit, and this is part of the first batch. So basically, real quickly, it's basically like the Moza Air, except it has a much lighter payload. The payload is down to 3.9 pounds. So if you remember from our previous review with the Moza Air versus the Zhiyun Crane had a lighter payload. And basically, this would put it in direct competition with the Zhiyun Crane. So real quickly, let's go through what comes with your Moza AirCross. So the Moza AirCross comes with a built-in quick release plate. Now there's a quick note here. If you're using a Manfrotto quick release plate, what you're gonna need to do is there's actually a screw here, and what we can actually show you from the Moza Air. There's an extra screw here that usually helps you securely lock the plate into the quick release, but we found out that based on how it's built, you probably want to remove that plate. That allows you to have much easier access to slide the camera all the way through, especially with the plate you have. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to remove this screw right here, because what happens is once you actually lock on the Manfrotto style plate, you don't actually get a whole lot of movement. So what you do is you remove this, and that way you get the full range of your quick release plate. One of the coolest features that comes with the Moza AirCross is you see this wire here. This wire is actually leading into the camera. It's actually a dummy battery. So right now we have a Sony a7S, so you see that we actually have a Sony camera on there, but they also give you this, which is for your Panasonic GH4s or Panasonic GH5. So now, we've all been there before. If you're doing a very gimbal heavy shoot and you require quite a bit of battery, it's always a pain to have to switch out the battery, take the camera off, so on and so forth. But now, you can use the internal battery of the Moza and power your camera from there. If you're using the dummy battery and the internal battery of the Moza AirCross, you're going to get approximately 2.5 hours of battery operation. And lastly, you also get the cables for your different cameras, whether it be Canon, Sony, or Panasonic. And these cables basically allow you to operate the camera from the camera handle. The batteries that come with this gimbal are the same that come with the Moza Air. And of course, you also get a nice charger to go with it to charge your batteries.
Optional equipment that can come with it is also the thumb controller and the dual handles.
Everything does come in a nice Pelican style hard case like we've seen with the Moza Air. Now there is one little caveat. While it does fit everything, the only thing it does not fit is your battery charger. Now, you know, depending on your setup, maybe that's not a big deal. You can just toss this in with something else. But as far as the case goes, it would have been nice to see an all-encompassing case. If anybody sees our old videos, they came in these honkin', basically big Pelican cases, and now it's like a little suitcase, not even. Yeah. So the fact that we have this
lighter and lighter,
yeah, and
which
they
makes
keep getting
operation and usage much easier. And you can get in tighter spaces. You can get shots that you normally wouldn't have been able to get simply because of its size, and it'll give you the same quality.
And the battery life. Battery life has gotten significantly better than the original gimbals. The original gimbals, I want to say, only lasted like 3 hours. And that was with a pretty substantial battery too. Now, one last cool feature about the Moza AirCross is actually this port right here. So not only does this dummy battery can support power to your camera, but for the first time, you can actually put an external battery pack right here. So now you can power the whole gimbal along with the dummy battery. Now, as far as balancing the gimbal, it's pretty much the same as any other gimbal. A couple quick reminders: when you do start balancing your camera, make sure the camera is in its final position. So if you have a GH5 and you want to do your gimbal work with the screen flipped out, make sure it's flipped out. Make sure your lens caps and hoods and your lens is set. So right now on the 35-100, you'll notice that when I move the zoom ring, the lens doesn't grow. So if you have a lens that does protrude out, depending on what focal length you are, you want to make sure you're setting that as well. So basically, set it to its final resting position before you start balancing, and when you do, it should look something like this. Go ahead, Keith. Once it's fully balanced, your camera will basically just be floating and you can move all about.
So the joystick can actually act as many multiple functions as a motion as long as you press it in many different times. So if you press in once, it'll yaw follow, meaning it'll follow in the yaw. If you press it twice, it'll pitch and yaw. Once you click it 3 times, it will lock everything. And if you click it 4 times, the roll and the yaw will follow. And if you long press, it'll actually put all the motors to sleep. But don't worry, if you press it once, it'll wake everything back up.
So the power button actually also acts as a multifunctioning button as well. A long press will turn on and off the gimbal, and 1 click will actually allow you to start and stop your recording. 2 clicks will allow you to take a photo. 3 clicks will auto center the camera, and then 4 clicks allows you to do the roll control. Like the Moza Air, there is a time-lapse feature. So basically you can program the Moza gimbal to move in any certain direction and how long it takes. And this is all programmed through your smartphone. Now, as of right now, it's available for iOS. And if you're on Android, they're still in the beta process. For more information on how to set up your time-lapse, we'll also have a link down below for Alex Timelapse's video. So one of the cool features that came from the Moza Air is also present in the Moza AirCross. So if you get the optional thumb control wheel, they have a mimic function. And what it is you gotta go into the option menus, go to down to motion and control, and then we will go ahead and activate that. So now, if I hand this off to Keith, you'll notice that when he slowly tilts it up and down, it's going to follow his movement. Now the cool thing about this is if you're doing some very cinematic shots and you just want the gimbal operator to just focus on following the talent, you can have another operator behind, and his job or her job will be to make sure everything stays in frame. Now this also allows you to do some really cool stuff with a jib. So obviously if you're using a jib, the camera's going to be 10, 20 feet in the air or something like that, and it's doing all these moves. With this mimic controller, you're going to basically be able to do some very dynamic jib shots as well. So we're really happy to see that this feature from the Moza Air is also present in the Moza AirCross. So in conclusion, Keith, why don't you give us your thoughts since you just ran around with this a little bit?
In conclusion, I liked it. It's probably the lightest gimbal I've used thus far. With the GH5 and also the built-in in-camera stabilization, that's like a match made in heaven. You can walk any way you want and everything will be extremely smooth. The powering it up through the gimbal is an excellent feature. However, we did see that there was problems when you film in 10-bit over 8-bit. So, but overall, I like it. I enjoyed it.
And as for me, having a lighter payload, depending on what kind of cameras you're using, that's definitely a great plus if you don't need to go up all the way. So again, you saw us using it with the A7S and any of those certain bodies alike. What I do like, again, is, you know, gimbals have gotten so small these days. We were talking about this off camera, but, you know, the fact that you can pack all this stuff down into a tiny little case and then take this with you on a shoot, that is freaking amazing. And the price point of $419 right now, like that's not bad at all for a gimbal. One of my favorite features is definitely the mimic control. Because sometimes, you know, it's hard for a camera operator to have to follow the talent while avoiding obstacles. So it's great to know that if you get the optional thumb controller, you have those types of capabilities, especially if you do a lot of jib shots. So honestly, like it's nothing but good news as far as I'm concerned about the Moza AirCross. If there was one thing that could be done better, I guess try to be able to record in 10-bit, because apparently that froze the camera
While plugged into the power
camera.
We want to thank everybody. Everybody.
Or do they?
Thank you for watching this whole time. I know there were times we
Yeah. Well, I mean, is there any other questions before we cut off?
Yeah.
Like, please ask any questions you got.
All right.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you in the next one.
See you.